All right, it's 2 o'clock. We've got tight end coach Jon Williams with us. Wags, you lead us off.
Well, obviously, we're all rooting for Cody Howard to have a healthy, injury-free senior season. I'm guessing that you've probably limited him in the spring just to make sure that he stays healthy and makes it to the start line in good shape.
Yes, we have. You know, spring is, I guess, mostly for finding out what guys can do and what they can't do. I look at this spring and just look at how beneficial it's been for our young guys that still have some question marks that are still growing and maturing. Cody, I know what we're going to get out of Cody. I joke around with him and Coach Chronic and say Cody's like a 78 box Chevy. It's good around town, but not good for long trips. So we try to keep the miles off of him, and we just kind of ride him around town for now. But I know what Cody's capable of. The good thing about having Cody this spring was just the leadership that he's provided for that young group that's coming up, and to me, that's more important than any snaps he could have gotten.
So, what exactly is Cody doing? Just position drill stuff? I mean, he's out there practicing, isn't he? He's not just standing around in street clothes, right?
Oh yeah. He's going through some specific run drills with our strength conditioning staff for part of practice, and then he comes with us for individual drills and position specific drills. We're just kind of holding him out of the majority of the contact reps and things of that nature. So, like I said, we all know what Cody's capable of. It would have been nice to have him just to kind of perfect his craft in some of the finer points of tight end play. But all in all, he's a really tough dude, and he's a student of the game too. So he does a great job of knowing where to be, when to be there, and how to get there.
So, do you feel if he's fully healthy for the first time, probably in his entire career, next season, he can have a big season, be very productive?
I do, I do. I think that this can be his best year if he can stay healthy. Um, but at the same time, I'm really excited about what's behind him too. That room has gotten better. When I got here, Coach Newberry said basically, "Hey, it's a blank canvas, just build it." And I got some guys when I first got here that were converted guys. And to be quite honest with you, we're gonna miss a couple of those guys. Thomas Scully was a kind of a Swiss Army knife. And he was a really really tough guy. So we'll miss him, but the talent that's coming up behind him, behind that senior class that's gone, is really exciting to build. I think the ceiling for that room is really high. We just have to continue to develop them and get them where we need them to be.
Well, last question for me before I pass it off to Joe Miller. Every time I've been out of practice, it seems Jake Norris is making a big play. Just last week, I saw him catch a pass in the flat, and it ended up being a big gain. It was a well constructed play in that he got wide open. But I just feel like Jake Norris looks like he's a guy that's ready to take off.
Yeah, he is, and that's when you have some really solid depth. Um, it allows you not to stress so much about like Cody, So, with what we do and how we play and how hard our guys play, it's impossible to go out there with one guy and say, "Hey, this is your tight end." I mean, we're going to play three, maybe even four, depending on the talent level. But Jake's a guy that played significant reps last year, and he just got better and better and better. And I'm super proud of him. From a toughness standpoint, he's exactly what we look for here at the Naval Academy. Perhaps one of the most unselfish guys on the team. Um, just he's been awesome. Just like every player. I mean, we all have strengths and we all have deficiencies. So this spring, we've really tried to make an emphasis on really, getting better with correcting those deficiencies. And he's done a really good job. And I can't say enough good things about Jake. He's just a tough guy.
Joe Miller.
Hey, Coach. I know you talked about it a little bit there, but the position relatively new as far as trying to work that room and get the numbers in that room that you want. What has been the key to sort of building those guys? And as far as recruiting, what are you guys looking for? What has been sort of stand out when you talk about what we want to recruit as a tight end position at the Naval Academy?
Well, I think we've been very specific about what we want. And sometimes that's hard as a staff because there's a lot of guys out there that are 6'1", 6'2", that are really good tight ends. We've made a conscious effort to get longer in that room. And we've done that. You take a look at a couple of young guys coming up that were plebes this year. Theo Elwell's a 6'5" and some change, 238-pound guy. Will Miles is, a 6'4", 230-pound, 228, 230-pound guy. So that room is getting better. And I think it's a credit to our staff to be really disciplined about what we look for. And what we're trying to develop and what we want that room to look like 3-4 years down the road. And how do we get them? The first part of your question, the culture of this program, the culture of this institution really sells itself. I think we've got the best coaching staff in the country from top to bottom. And it's not hard to sell this place. The hardest part is just getting them here to experience it. Once they're here, they feel it, they feel the energy, and they see themselves, as a part of this culture. I mean, it's pretty special.
Yeah. You used it a little bit earlier talking, and at any time Cody's name gets brought up, the word tough is usually not far behind it when you talk about him, but also you talked about it in the position. Is it fair to say that that's got to be an adjective to describe any tight end in this system playing for Navy, that you have to be tough?
The physicality and toughness is the bedrock of our room. I mean, it's the foundation. If a guy is not tough and is not physical, he just can't play tight end here. I mean, those guys, we don't come off the field. So that's why we have to have multiple guys that can play a role in the room. But, when you go back to, ground zero of that room, the physicality and the toughness piece of it that has to be the dominant trait of each guy in that room. And, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
I told him today in meetings, I don't know if we'll ever in our minds get there, because I think it's that elusive trait that you just chase and you try to, get better and better in your toughness and your physicality each day. But, we have some guys that relentlessly pursue excellence each day and try to be the toughest, most physical guys on the field. Some days we are, some days we aren't. But that's the goal. So, that's got to be a huge piece of who we are.
You talked about a little bit there before about sort of the difference that what this place is all about, the Naval Academy. You've been at different places, big programs, smaller programs, been a lot of different places. When somebody asks you, like, to put into words, what's the difference? What do you say?
You know what? I think it all comes back to just our locker room. Our locker room is different than any locker room in the country. you know, and I've been doing this for just finished my 30th season, started in 1995, I guess. So, um, you know, everybody talks about culture, um, family culture. Those are buzzwords in football programs all across America. A lot of them talk it, very few walk it. Here at our place, you know, it's our superpower, to be honest with you. That locker room is phenomenal, and when you got a bunch of guys that are unselfish, that are you know committed to excellence in everything that they do, um, it it's pretty special. And we saw that this past season. Unfortunately, 2024 has nothing to do with 2025. So, each year, you reset. And we're in the process of doing that right now. Not just in our room, but in our whole locker room. And who's gonna pick up the baton and take off and run with it. And so who's going to be the leaders? Coach Newberry's doing an awesome job right now of trying to determine and develop leadership and who that's going to be. And that's the exciting part of spring.
Yeah.
But that's the locker room is the X factor in my opinion.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Wags.
So if you could kind of describe Jake Norris and what he brings to the table, how would you describe his skill set and what he brings to the field?
Wow. Jake is I know where Jake comes from. Jake's coach from in high school, one of his assistant coaches, was one of my former players. One of Jake's father's colleagues in business is one of my former players. So, when Jake got here and I became the tight end coach, I think both of those people kind of told him, like, hey, you're going to have to be a really tough dude to make it, at that place and to play for him. And you know what? He has embraced every bit of it. And, last year, well, from the time he got here, we've been, really hard on Jake because I knew where he came from and I knew that he could handle it. And I think his toughness has just gotten better and better, mental and physical. He went through a spell where he overthought a lot. And I used to joke him and say, you have a hamster wheel in your head and it's just going nonstop. You got to slow it down and process. And he's done that. From a physical skill set. I mean, you look at Jake and you don't say the prototypical tight end, right? So he kind of breaks the norms there because he's a little bit shorter than what you would like for him to be. But he's super strong. He's a really strong kid, got a really strong core. And he just maximizes every ounce that God gave him, and so he's tough. He's a high effort guy. As we look at the catapult GPS every day, he's always going to be the highest yardage guy. He's going to run about 7,000 yards a practice. He doesn't look like a fast guy, but he's a 20-mile-an-hour plus guy. Not that we put a whole lot of stock in that, but at the end of the day, here's Jake. His dominant trait is he's available and he's durable, and he stays out of the training room. He's tough. He may get nicked up, but he knows the difference between being injured and hurt. And that's really his dominant trait. He's just a tough guy that's dependable, and he's always there to do whatever you need him to do.
So I know that the tight ends that were plebes that are going to be rising sophomores were recruited as tight ends. Did they all play tight end in high school? Did you go and say, here's an athlete that could be a tight end in our system? So guys like Pritz and Elwell and the other plebes, I'm just was looking at the one of the other ones, but are those guys that were tight ends in high school?
Yes, and that's the
Will Miles was the other guy I was thinking of.
yeah. So you got Will and Theo. Wayne, Wayne has kind of shifted roles a little bit in that he's had a couple of surgeries, and so he's going to shift roles, and he's going to be my student assistant, and I'm super fired up about that. But so really, it's been Theo and Will this spring that have really, kind of popped out. Both of them have had their moments. Will is a guy that's he's good in both areas. Catches the ball well, and also is a really good blocker. Theo, I think, has the potential to develop into being a special receiver as a tight end. Right now with him, we are just working on, his emphasis in this spring has been just pad level because he is a 6'5" plus guy. So just getting his pad level lower and being able to be a dominant run blocker. But both those guys have had their moments this spring, and both of them have popped out. And you look at it and you say, man, those guys are going to be really good down the road in the future. The challenge that I have is we have to develop them right now. We've got 3 incoming plebes coming in that they're really good too. So we're going to have a good problem in that room, hopefully for years to come. And that's the beauty of it. The more talent you get as you acquire talent, it makes a room better because there's a lot more competitive. So hopefully the days of finding a guy on defense that can play tight end, hopefully those days are over. And we go out, we identify guys that fit our scheme and have a skill set that we believe we can develop and be really good. And we just continue to acquire talent and develop the room.
So who do you think is the best blocker among the tight ends right now?
Well, I think Jake and Cody, have done it more. So they get it. They understand what the competition looks like on a week to week.
They've done it in games.
Yeah. They've done it in games. So they're proven that they can go and they can block anybody we play. So they're the ones that are proven. Although Cody hasn't done it this spring much, I know, like I said, I know what he's capable of. But Jake has probably popped out the most this spring as being, a dominant blocker.
Thanks.
Go.
Yeah, just a couple more from me from the perspective of, and I know it's not, I went up and looked at the numbers last year. You had about 15 to 20 targets to the tight end position. Do you see that number evolving as you keep going forward, or is, when we, I know it's something that you don't really necessarily plan out, but do you foresee as the position gets more and more comfortable in this offense over the next few years and you guys have recruited to that position, that number going up?
Yeah, I definitely do. We're going to do whatever we have to do to win. If that means we got to run it 60 times a game, then we'll do it. And we're committed to that. We're just committed to winning and whatever it takes. I do think as that room develops, okay, I think we do become a bigger part of the passing game. And that's the exciting part about it. I think this year you'll see a bigger role that we'll play. And I think as as we develop these guys, I think you'll see us run a full complement of the route tree and not just, quick game, short, intermediate, play action stuff. I think you'll see us be able to be a competent deep threat over time, and so that's the exciting part. The part that stinks right now is we're not there right now. We're not there yet, and would like to be there. But as a coach, hopefully we look back, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, however long it may be, and say, man, look where we were and look where we are now, and how that room has developed, not just from a personnel standpoint, but how it's evolved from a schematic standpoint and the role that we're playing. So yeah, it's exciting. I knew when I took this job that there were going to be some hard days initially, but I knew on the back end there'd be a huge payoff to see what our coaches have built.
Yeah. As far as like the amount of different things you do formation wise with the position, does that help you get different guys on the field, in a particular situation that you can sort of, this is the guy for this setup, or do you look at it like this is my number one guy, my number two guy, and it doesn't really change when we talk formation?
Yeah. We're not that elaborate. I mean, we're gonna go with the guy we have, and that guy needs to be able to do everything. I don't really ever foresee us packaging anything to where this guy is this type guy, or he's a quick game guy, or he's a ad zone guy, or a belly guy. That's just not where it is. The guy that's on the field has got to be able to do everything. Now, could we see down the road as we develop that position, could we see something to where you actually have two on the field at one time? Absolutely. I could definitely see that. And that kind of gets into body types and things of that nature and what guys' strengths and weaknesses are. But we're not there right now. I could see us going down that road in the future.
Cool. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got one. Not only have you coached at Navy, you also had a son go here and play here. How much do you use that in recruiting as far as the parent part when you're talking to another parent, like how much your son transformed from a plebe to when he graduated and just the entire experience?
Yeah, that's a good point. I use it a lot. I use it every time I talk to parents. Because there's coach speak, there's recruiter speak, there's the sales pitch that you give, so to speak, and every school across America has a sales pitch. I kind of have a little different perspective, and I tell parents, look, I'm not giving this to you as a recruiter, or as a position coach, or as a staff member. I'm giving this to you as a parent, and here's who we are, all right, and here's why I'm here. Okay, the head coach recruited my own son. While I was off working in other places, the head coach took care of my kid, and the head coach sent me texts to update me on my kid. So I've seen things from a different perspective here at Navy than maybe anybody else, because I've seen it as a parent, and now I'm seeing it as a coach. So I'll be honest with you, it makes recruiting a lot easier. And I, when we get parents on campus, I mean, I use my wife, just to connect, mothers with another mother that's been through it, and I think it's been an asset, for me to have gone through it as a parent.
Knowing your wife, she can recruit anybody. That I know.
Yeah. She will definitely. She's definitely not afraid to talk. That's for sure.
You've got you as a parent, and then you've got Coach Yokitis and Coach Green and Brandon Jones who have gone here and through that. That has to help in recruiting with the different perspectives that you can attack, to talk to recruits like that.
Yeah, I mean, we really have every base covered, from guys that have played here, guys that have coached here, guys that have gone on to serve and come back in various capacities, be it in Captain Jones's role or RB, who started off in that type of role, then moved to recruiting and now on the field. And so, yeah, Coach Yokitis was at Naps as well. So he has a perspective on that. And that's something that I'm not familiar with, but I've learned a lot through him because he was there. So, yeah, man, I mean, it's just I think that's one of the dominant traits of our program is our staff. The human connection. Our coaches are super locked into our roster and what's in that locker room, but also our recruits. And we talk about it all the time. When we talk about recruiting, we don't talk about other schools in recruiting. Now, others will talk about us, but we don't talk about other schools in recruiting. We focus on the love that we have for our squad and our locker room and our staff, more than we focus on the hate of an opponent or someone else. And I think that's what makes us different. And we hear it all the time from parents. You guys aren't talking about other schools, and that's not who we are. And that's a directive, and that's straight from the top from our head coach. We're focusing on who we are and the love of our players, the love of our staff, the love of our institution, more than we're talking about, hating another program or down in another program. So I think that's what makes us unique, and it makes us who we are. And at the end of the day, I think that's why we've been able to have some success this past year. And Coach Newberry's done an awesome job of just redefining the culture here.
The way I take it is, if you're talking about another school, you don't have enough to talk about at your own school. So it's good.
Yeah, you said it right there. That's right.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great day.
We'll be back with Cody Howard at 3:00.